Hello everyone, Abigail here from Evening Star Astrology. I hope you're all staying safe and healthy and well. Today I have another pick a card reading for you. We have a lunar eclipse coming up this weekend in the sign of Capricorn. We've already had 2 eclipses during this summer eclipse season, and this is the 3rd and final one. This is a time to release, to let go of what is no longer serving you. And eclipses love to drag up old secrets and hidden things that you thought were issues or that you had potentially gotten over or were just completely unaware of. So this is a powerful weekend. There's a lot of energy that's going to be dragged up. And so this reading is designed to help you figure out what exactly it is that you need to release. What is no longer beneficial in your life, what you might be holding on to out of fear or desire, or it provides comfort in some way. Eclipses don't allow for that. They want you to get rid of it. They show you exactly what needs to be released from your life. And that is what I hope to highlight in this reading. So if you've never seen a pick a card reading before, hello, welcome. Basically the way this is gonna work, I have 4 piles in front of me, all with different readings and messages. And I'll explain how to pick the cards in just a second. But once you pick the pile that is calling out to you, you might pick based on your intuition. A crystal might be calling out to you. So once you pick it, you'll go down to the description box below, and I'll have timestamps for each of the readings, and you'll go to your respective reading. All right, so for picking your card, at this time I invite you to take a couple of calm, deep, grounding breaths. Really tap into your intuition, your inner landscape, the decision of which pile to pick. And after taking these grounding breaths, we have pile number 1 with labradorite, pile number 2 with black tourmaline, pile number 3 with malachite, and pile number 4 with adventurine. And so once you've picked, go down to the description box below. You'll find a timestamp for your reading. Again, reading number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4. And yeah, let's get into the readings. All right, pile number 1, hello. If you picked the pile with labradorite, this one is for you. So we start off over here with the 8 of Cups. And the 8 of Cups indicates that there's some sort of situation that you're in right now, one that is causing you a lot of drama and stress. Perhaps it's one that you've put a lot of time and energy into, and now you've just overstayed your welcome. And that fits right in with the 9 of Wands, also reversed here. Because the 9 of Wands, this is like your kind of checkpoint of you've put in all the work, you've worked so hard to get to this point, and you can't see that maybe it's not the right choice. Because if you put all that work in, how could it possibly be wrong? But the problem is that these cards are reversed, indicating that yes, you've done all the right steps and you've put in your time and your money and energy, but this situation, whatever it is, like this could be some sort of like business deal, some sort of relationship. I'm getting the sense that this is something that you have personally like made something that you've planned from its inception, but it's just not going to work out. And you're holding so tightly to the idea of what it should be rather than what it is. And this is really, it's just causing more drama and stress than it's actually worth. So as far as releasing with the lunar eclipse coming up, whatever this is that you like have put all this time into, as unfortunate as it is, this lunar eclipse is saying, just release it. We can start again. We can try something new. But holding on so rigidly to this one idea, relationship, this career idea, this project you've been working on, you just need to let it go. You can't hold on to it any longer, because it's not serving you and it's not in your best interest to continue trying to push something that's ultimately not going to work out. And the 4 of Swords is all about like rest and meditation and reflection, taking time for yourself. And since it's reversed next to these 2 cards, it feels like you've been sacrificing self-care. Like instead of taking the time to like sleep, like, or just generally like, you know, care for yourself, you've been too focused on like trying to get this this project, this idea off the ground, and you've been sacrificing so much, and it's just causing you so much stress. And even though you've maybe done all the right steps, it's just not quite working. So my advice is that you need to release this idea of what it should be and instead accept what is. Take some time, kind of meditate, reflect, and think about what is actually serving you in your life, because this situation is not serving you. It's not helping you in any way. So the Four of Swords is saying like, okay, so what is helping you? What changes could be made that could actually help you out in your life? And then finally, we end with the Seven of Swords. And the Seven of Swords is all about kind of like deceit and dishonesty and trickery. And the only card here that's upright, to me, this is actually kind of pointing towards your thoughts and your logic and saying, maybe don't rely on logic alone. Because like, if we think about the situation logically, like this relationship, this project, whatever that you've invested so much time into, logically it would make sense, yeah, like, let's get over this last obstacle, let's make it to the end, we can do this. But this card is saying, is it really worth it to keep pushing ourselves past the point of exhaustion, not taking care of ourselves, just to get this done? And the Eight of Cups is kind of like, with the Four of Swords, but the Eight of Cups especially is kind of signifying that like your emotional needs are not being met in this situation. And it's because you've been prioritizing logic over rest, meditation, and emotional well-being. With this lunar eclipse, I invite you to kind of look carefully at your life, and if there's some sort of project or relationship where you've just been putting in so much effort, so much of your energy and time, all of your resources that like you're not saving for yourself, I invite you to like kind of critically analyze that and then release it. And when you release it, I think it'll be a lot less dramatic than you think. You may be thinking like, I've worked so hard to get to this point. I've really done all the work, and like if I leave now, then everyone's gonna like think I'm a failure, or like people are gonna be upset. This card invites you to just kind of like slip away. Just take a step back, because it's really in your best interest to not continue to push something that's not actually going to come to fruition. And so to complement this reading, I've pulled an oracle card, and we have Mars here. It's very interesting because Mars is kind of pointing to this Nine of Wands energy, like the need to push ahead, the need to constantly go for it. And like, there's almost an aggressive, like, I have to be the best. I have to complete this. I need to prove that I'm the best in this relationship, or that I can complete this project. Like, proving to yourself that you can do it. And I just want to remind you that like sometimes you just need to take a step back. Like, not every project or relationship is meant to work out. It's okay to take a step back and admit defeat, and admit that you might need more time to rest than you were giving yourself, that the drama and stress of like that hustler attitude is really not worth it for you. And then also with Mars, moving past, like, once you've released this, Mars is kind of saying, be a little bit more careful about where you channel your energy. Like, be honest and true about where you're sending it, and use it in the most productive way possible. And Mars is also just saying, like, choose where to spend your energy, because right now you've been channeling it into something that's not actually productive for you. And, you know, it may have been right up until this point, but right now it's not working. So Mars is kind of like, okay, let's realign our energy. Let's, like, when I say energy, I'm referring to like the most like physical sense of it. Like, where are you putting your time and effort and resources? So Mars is saying, where can you invest your physicality, your energy, your drive? Because once you release this situation, you're going to have some more free time. And yes, you should be using that free time to do a little bit more resting. But when you are ready to invest in the next project, I would invite you to channel the energy of Mars. Think critically about where you're going, but also listen to your heart. Because again, listening to your emotions and intuition rather than your logic. And Mars is very passionate, very like driven by impulse. And I think that like you've been holding on to something and not letting like your real passionate and intuitive nature take the reins. So I invite you to do that as you release what is no longer serving you, which is this relationship, this career venture that you are currently on. Reading number 1, I think that's all I have for you today. If you liked this video, if you resonated with it, if you want to let me know like what specifically this means for you, please leave that down in the comments. Feel free to give this video a like and subscribe if you would like to see more from me. Thank you, reading number 1. I'll see you guys in the next video. All right, hello, pile number 2. So if you picked the cards with the black tourmaline on top, this is your reading. So to start off with, we have the King of Cups and the Three of Swords, and both of these cards are about emotions, and there's a certain heaviness to them, especially the Three of Swords. I mean, like, obviously you look at it and there's 3 swords being plunged into this swan. It's about heartbreak, it's about loss and pain and sadness. Sometimes the King of Cups can get caught up in the idea that his emotions are facts, instead of recognizing that, like, emotions are very important, but they're not necessarily true all the time. And so this reading is really interesting to me because these ones are kind of saying, like, either you kind of have a negative outlook. I think that the Three of Swords is kind of like putting a certain negative twist onto the King of Cups and his emotions. And, you know, you may have had a heartbreak recently. You may feel some sort of loss or pain or disconnect due to external circumstances. And it's just kind of soured your emotions. You're just kind of like, well, if that's bad, then everything's bad. And kind of maybe even creating the story in your head of everyone's out to get me. Like, I don't have support. No one cares for me. Negative thought pattern that keeps cycling. That's like along those lines. And then over here, 7 of Wands. And as you can see, like, you know, there's like a fight, there's a confrontation. But more importantly, it's about like standing up for yourself or for someone else, standing your ground. And I think that what like this reading is saying is that in some way you are painting this negative story and you're painting yourself as the victim, and or that you are painting yourself as like not autonomous, like I don't have any control in the situation, the world is going around me in a certain way and I cannot control it at all. And so this card, the 7 of Wands, is kind of saying, no, you do have some control. It's about choosing when and where to stand up, what values of yours are important. And I feel like right now you're just kind of like passively retreating instead of confronting relationship issues. So with this reading, there's a lot of need to stand up for yourself, to stand your ground. But I think also this card, like, even though it is like traditionally other oriented, I think it could be standing up to yourself as well. So these are telling me that like your relationship with yourself is not going well. Like you may have like a victim narrative that's like in your mind, if everyone's out to get me, I'm just a victim of my circumstances. Or, you know, like you're caught up in like some sort of like depressive thinking pattern of like, you know, thinking like catastrophizing, like all or nothing, like some sort of thinking pattern that is really just kind of like circulating and weighing you down, and you're just becoming fixated on this. And so with the lunar eclipse this weekend, I invite you to release this narrative. Release the stories that you're telling yourself. Release the ideas that you have in your head of like, the world is out to get me, like I am just a victim, like I can't do anything right. Release those thoughts by standing up to yourself and kind of like, you know, like literally like this guy, just like intervene and say, no, I am worthy. I am not a victim. I can choose to make this situation as I want it to. Because these cards are just putting a super negative spin on everything. And so by standing up to yourself and kind of cutting that circuit short, saying, like, the situation, yeah, like, there may be, like, not ideal circumstances. I'm definitely not trying to minimize this card. But this one is also saying, like, can we put a positive spin on it? Can we stop making it worse than it is? You know, this isn't saying, like, here's how to make the situation better. It's simply saying, instead of making this worse by thinking and, like, ruminating on our emotions, let's just do what we can to accept the situation as it is. Not try and, like, stew in these emotions in this like negative thought pattern, and instead stand up, kind of cut that loop short and say like can we just accept it as it is? Can we stop putting ourselves into this mindset? And this also, of course, can be like literally standing up. I'm taking a very, like, a much more, like, psychological internal interpretation of these cards. Like, to me, that they're signifying, like, internal things, and, like, they may be influenced by external circumstances, but they're definitely more, this is a thought pattern that's inside your head and maybe not what is actually reflected in the world around you. But this card could also, like, this reading could also be, like, very external. Like, there is something in your circumstances where you are, like, you could, like, this card can sometimes literally mean heartbreak. Like, heartbreak or loss of some sort. And just, like, feeling, like, the weight of the world and all the emotions that you possibly could. And, you know, there may be a victim narrative in your head, but there may also be, like, you may literally be in a situation where you are the victim. And so this card is saying, like, stand up for yourself in these situations. And you may have to stand up to yourself, you may have to stand up to other people, but understanding that, like, you're not going to make progress if you keep spiraling in this way. You need to kind of cut the circuit short and stand up to yourself or to someone else, whoever is continuing to trap you in this loop. So, with the lunar eclipse advice, release this either situation or negative thought pattern that is just creating negativity and a constant negative spiral or outlook in your life. And whether that means standing up to someone else and, like, demanding that your needs are met, or standing up to yourself and saying, we're not going to make the situation worse than it is. We need to, like, so let's stop this negative thought pattern. So I also have an oracle card for this reading, and wow, this is interesting because this feels like a very internal, like, situation, and Pluto is all about death and transformation and rebirth. You know, you have, like, this situation going on, like this internal negative self-talk, like low self-esteem, like whatever it is, like victim narrative, and like this is, like, kind of holding you back. And this card is kind of saying, like, stand up for yourself and stop this negative loop that you're in. And then Pluto is saying, like, the work that needs to be done is replacing it with something else. Because if you just, like, take out the negative self-talk and don't fill it with anything else, it's going to come creeping back in because there's an empty void that needs to be filled. So whatever this situation is, whatever this, like, negative, like, self-talk, low self-esteem, like, this narrative that you're telling yourself, this is kind of like saying, like, stop and check in with yourself on what's really going on and then find a new way to work around this. How can you transform the situation so it's more productive? Because this isn't productive. This is not going to, like, help you advance and become the best version of yourself that you can be. And so Pluto is saying, like, you know, it's the god of death. It's like, let there be an end to this and let's bring something new. Something with courage and confidence where you're able to stand up for yourself, be assertive, and, like, make sure that your needs are truly being met. All right, pile number 2, I think this is all I have for you today. If you liked this reading, if it resonated with you, if you want to chat about it down in the comments, please feel free to comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. Hello, pile number 3. If you picked the pile with malachite on top, this reading is for you. These cards are really powerful. I feel like you are on some sort of spiritual journey right now. Like, you know, you've been taking time alone to meditate and rest and reflect. You've been doing the work. And the Three of Pentacles is also saying this. The Three of Pentacles is saying, like, you've been putting in the time. And, like, I think that is incredible. And I think that, like, you know, if we're going along this path to get to the world, to complete whatever goal, and it doesn't have to be something spiritual, but I definitely feel like it's a little bit more of, like, a mental or emotional journey rather than, like, a physical project. But this reading is kind of saying to me that, like, you know, you may have been isolating yourself too much and you're doing the work, but the Three of Pentacles is reversed here, which is kind of indicating that, like, you might not be doing the right work, or you've been too focused, like, too caught up in some ideas that you haven't, like, laid the proper foundation yet. Like, are so, like, focused on doing, like, the spiritual work and, like, kind of, like, raising their vibrations or whatever, that, and, like, they're more focused on the goal than they are on the journey, that they forget to, like, lay the foundations. Like, you know, it's like people who are, like, so focused on their crown chakra, but don't remember that like the other 6 chakras are what the crown chakra balances on. You can't like get to the world if you don't lay down the proper foundation first. And so I think like, yes, you may have been like taking your time, working, like learning about new things, like retreating, looking within yourself. But I think that you're kind of like skipping some steps, or not even skipping steps in the middle. You don't have a solid base to build on. And so while you may be working towards this high goal, there may still be like emotional issues or unresolved trauma. Like there's just something here that is truly like some sort of work that needs to be done that you're skipping either intentionally or subconsciously that is preventing you from meeting your goal. And now the card of Temperance is really interesting here because the Temperance is usually about like balance, and this kind of shows up to say like, you know, you've been doing everything in moderation, you're doing it right. But in this reading, especially next to the 3 of Pentacles, the Temperance is kind of telling me that you are so stuck in this like rigid idea of what you should be doing to meet your goal and what needs to get done. And you're very focused on how it should like how it should be. And like, you know, maybe you've like read some like stuff online of like, oh, if you want to like activate your crown chakra, you need to do this, this, and this, and this. And you are holding yourself very tightly to those rigid routines of, I have to do this thing and then I have to do this thing after that. And you're like holding so tight to like routines and ideas of like how you have to do it and like thinking that there's only one right way to do it. What these 2 cards are saying is that you're holding yourself to some standard. You believe that there is only one right path to get to your goal, to complete whatever it is that you're working towards. But this clearly isn't working because the 3 of Pentacles is reversed. You have an idea of where you need to go, but not how to get there. And you're kind of following instructions like from other people, but you're not actually listening to yourself and what you need. I invite you to release the need of doing things perfectly or following a step-by-step guide to meet your goal. Because there are so many different ways to reach whatever goal you have. And even if there's like one method that's like highly respected or revered, that doesn't mean that it's the only right way. And rather than trying to fit yourself into some sort of limitation, some sort of narrative of, well, this is how I have to get there, instead thinking to yourself of what feels right, taking some time to meditate, and how do you need, or what do you need to get there? And also with this reading, kind of releasing like this idea of perfection, because, you know, Temperance is like very put together. The Pentacles are like, you know, at the hard work and all of that. And these 2 cards are like, I have to like be perfect every step of the way when meeting my goal. I invite you also to release this idea of perfection. Like most journeys are not like perfectly smooth. Like if we were talking about like a physical journey, like, you know, you get sweaty, your hair gets disheveled. Journeys are never like picturesque every step of the way. And, you know, luckily the Hermit is saying like being alone is a perfect time to like be messy and cry and make mistakes along the way. So this reading with the lunar eclipse is like, I think that you're doing some incredible work. Like I said, I feel like it's a very like, you're on some sort of spiritual journey or some emotional or mental reconstruction or reframing. And I think that like, you're clearly on the path to your goal, but I think that you might be hindering your progress by trying to stay so tightly within this like idea of perfection or idea of how the journey should look. So I invite you to release this need for perfection every step of the way, and also release the need to do your journey in a certain way, and rather just kind of like tap into your intuition and like spend some time alone thinking like, is this actually what I want to be doing right now? Like, am I journaling because I really think it benefits me because I feel good when I journal? Or am I journaling because I've read that that's an important step for self-reflection? You are on your way there. I just invite you to be a little bit more messy. Allow yourself to not be perfect every step of the way. Because like this journey, this like spiritual, emotional, mental journey is so personal to you that like, you know, focusing on yourself, what you need to do will get you there much faster and in a much more fulfilling way, rather than sticking to someone else's idea of what the journey should look like or how it should feel at every step of the way. Only you can know what it really should feel like. And so I also have an oracle card. Ooh, okay, so we have Saturn. And Saturn's all about like restrictions and kind of, you know, like maturity and all of that. So I feel like, yeah, there's definitely some sort of maturity going on here. But I feel like Saturn is saying like, you may be putting a lot of restrictions on yourself. You know, you may be like setting these goals of like, I have to meditate like for this amount of time every day. And if I don't, then I'm not meeting my goals. I'm not making progress on my journey. Or I have to journal every day, or I have to limit this, or I have to cut out this, or I have to hold myself to these very high standards. And Saturn is saying like, yes, restrictions are important. Like you can't just like spread out everywhere. Like you have to like create boxes and routines in one way or another. But Saturn is also saying like, don't be too restrictive with yourself. Like I said, there's a certain maturity going on here. But Saturn is saying like, make sure you're imposing the right restrictions on yourself. Again, like listening to what you need. What are the restrictions that are best for you? Not necessarily the restrictions that work best for other people. I think that's all I have for you, pile number 3. You are on some awesome journey right now. Like you're doing the spiritual work. Just make sure that you're imposing the right restrictions and goals for your personal self and not falling into like this journey of like what you think it should be. Not holding on to perfection and allowing yourself to be messy, because this is a very powerful journey. Like Saturn is a very powerful planet. You have a lot of good stuff going. Just make sure that you're not being too hard on yourself. If you liked this video, please comment down below, give this a thumbs up, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye. Hello, pile number 4. If you selected the pile with the green adventurine on top, this reading is for you and what you need to release during this eclipse. So we have some exciting cards here. Both the Page of Pentacles and the Three of Wands are all about like new adventures, new opportunities, and you are starting on something or want to start on something. You might not quite have started this journey yet, but there's an idea in your head of maybe I want to start a YouTube channel. Maybe I want to start sharing my art or my ideas in some way. But these two cards are pointing to a lot of anxieties or fears or self-doubt. And, you know, the Three of Wands is about creativity and self-expression and kind of starting some new adventure of sorts. And this adventure will require vulnerability. If you're going on an adventure, you're kind of putting yourself in the spotlight in one way or another. And that's opening yourself up for criticism, which can be really terrifying. And I think that the Nine of Swords, which is, you know, all about anxiety, in the Rider-Waite deck, the Nine of Swords features someone who is like up in the middle of the night thinking, and they're so caught up in their anxieties. And then the Moon reversed is showing me that like you're not really trusting your intuition right now. You're doubting yourself. You have the passion, but then there's that little voice in your head that's saying like, what if you're not good enough? What if you can't make it? And with the Page of Pentacles, there's like often an opportunity to learn new skills or develop. And, you know, next to the Moon reversed and the Nine of Swords, you might not know everything you need to know to get on this journey yet. But until you start, you won't know what you need to know, if that makes sense. Like, you have the drive, you have the passion to get started, but your skills might not be quite there yet, or you might still be newer in these skills. And, you know, with like the Wands, like I'm thinking of these skills being very creatively oriented. Like maybe you're into painting or music and you want to publish your first song or like post it on YouTube or something. Or this card could also, like, because Pentacles is related to money, maybe this is like a new business venture. It's like, I want to start a new YouTube channel, or I want to start selling my artwork. And these two cards are like, what if it doesn't work out? What if no one likes my work? What if it's not good enough? What you need to release during this lunar eclipse, according to this reading, is the need to be perfect on your first try. like this card is saying that like you're working on developing the skills, but you haven't mastered them yet. That's okay. You can still start on your journey. You don't need to, like, you can't wait forever to start. This card is saying you, like, whatever you want to do, go for it, and then the skills will follow. They will develop over time. And you don't need to be perfect on your first try. With the Page of Pentacles, like, your skills are coming, but they haven't fully developed yet. But this card is saying it's time to start on your journey. It's time to start and leave behind the anxieties and that little nagging voice that's saying, but what if you're not good enough? What if you don't make it? What if people don't like this? Like, you may not have all the skills yet, but as you go along, as you start your journey and like kind of get going, these skills will sort themselves out. Like, they'll kind of like all the bumps will get ironed out. Basically what this reading is saying is you have the drive and you have the skills, whether you've just started on the skills or you're kind of starting to iron out the kinks with these skills. Release all the negative self-talk. Release the anxieties. Don't give your anxiety power in the situation. Don't give that little nagging voice saying, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if people will like it. Don't give them the power. Release that negative self-talk, that fear. And of course, this is much easier said than done. But I think this reading is really encouraging you that you have some exciting stuff coming. Like, you're embarking on a new adventure. And obviously right now people can't like travel. So this isn't like a literal adventure, but this could represent, creative expression, a job project, some sort of creative outlet for you. You have the skills and you have the drive. That's enough. That is more than enough to get you started. Whatever you are trying to figure out, should I do this, should I not do it? These cards are saying, do it. You have all the tools that you need. And these are the things that you don't need. You don't need the anxiety. You don't need the inner doubt, the fear, the worry about whether or not it's going to work out. You have no way of knowing that yet. It could, not work out. That's okay. It might work out great, but you won't know unless you actually get started on it. With the lunar eclipse, I invite you to release these fears, these anxieties of what it should look like, what it should feel like, what the process should look like, and just get started on it. Because you have everything you need to get started. And I also have an oracle card for you. So, Venus. Ooh, okay. So, Venus is obviously about like beauty, love, romance, affection, like everything like harmonious and wonderful. And I think that there's a lot of like disharmony within you right now because like the Nine of Swords and the Moon are, your inner voices saying, I don't know if it's going to work out. It's a lot of conflict within yourself because, there's part of you that's saying, I want to start this adventure. And then there's this part of you saying, I don't know if I can do it. That's conflict. Venus in this reading is inviting you to release any disharmony and focus on what is beautiful and creative and wonderful and abundant, which is this adventure you're starting on. Like, this is the right path. Your worries and doubts won't get you anywhere. This is going to take you somewhere. And Venus, is telling you to express your creativity, express yourself, and there may be like your personal quirks or eccentric nature. Venus is saying that's great. Embrace all of that. It is all beautiful. It is all wonderful. You are perfect as you are. You have the skills you need, and the skills that you don't have right now, they're coming your way too. Don't get caught up in the anxiety, and don't let your inner critic have too much power here. Venus is also saying something beautiful is coming on this journey. So just trust in the process and, don't let yourself get caught up at like the first sign of failure. Like, this is a really positive card. This is encouraging you to keep going with it because good things will happen on this journey if you allow yourself to do it and embrace it without inner critics or anxieties holding you back. All right, pile number 4, I think that's all I have for you with this reading. If you liked this reading, please give me a thumbs up, comment down below, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.